Hey guys, hope you're all doing great. I'm Hoodie, and today we're gonna check out some Reddit stories together. And if you enjoy listening to Reddit stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The subreddit, Am I the Asshole? Potential, while 9923. Am I the asshole for refusing to help my parents care for my son whom they adopted? I am an oops baby. My folks had me when they were in their early 40s. I got pregnant when I was in university. I probably can't write here why I didn't want it. I wanted to not be pregnant, but my parents said they would cut off all aid to me if I did that. So I carried it to term. Then I wanted to put the child up for adoption or drop him at a fire station or something. I was not on a good place. My parents insisted on adopting him, so he is legally my brother. I do not hate him, but he is a reminder of something terrible that happened to me. I now go back home as little as possible, maybe 2 days a year. I have graduated and I have a life far away from my parents. My brother is 12 now, and he is not well behaved. My parents are now in their 70s, and they are having a shitty retirement. They have to dedicate all their time to him. They can't take the vacations they planned. They won't downsize to a condo, so they still have yard work and stuff that he will not help with. None of my actual siblings will watch him to give them a break. They reached out to me for help. I said no. I said that he is their son and their responsibility. They think I'm being cruel for forcing them to do everything after they helped me so much. It took everything I had in me not to curse them out. Some of my relatives have reached out to me to see why I refused to help fix the mess I made. Them I curse out and block. None of them helped me when I was pregnant against my will. The biological father is on the registry and cannot be near kids. Before you ask, from the very beginning, this story doesn't feel like it's about refusing to help with childcare. It feels like it's about a person who never truly had a choice in the first place. What stands out to me immediately is the language of coercion, financial pressure, emotional pressure, and the way help was always tied to control. There's a deep emotional distance in the way the narrator talks about her brother, and that distance doesn't read as cruelty. It reads as survival. When someone is forced to carry and give birth under threat, even the word family can start to feel unsafe. So when she says she avoids going home, that makes sense to me. Not because she lacks compassion, but because proximity reopens wounds that never had the chance to heal. What's especially heavy is that the parents framed their choice as generosity. We helped you. Now you owe us. But from a personal perspective, this doesn't feel like help. It feels like ownership. They made a decision for her body, for her future, and later for the child's legal status, and now they want emotional and practical support as repayment. To me, this part of the story feels less like abandonment and more like self-preservation. Saying no isn't about punishing them. It's about refusing to be pulled back into a situation that began with her being denied agency over her own life. And while her decision to say no already felt rooted in self-protection, the update reveals just how much of her story had been buried beneath silence, and why distance was never about avoidance, but about survival. Thank you guys for finally giving me the motivation to tell my story to my family and to cut ties with my parents. I did as many of you suggested, and I wrote everything out. Bo explained that I had been violently assaulted and raped, that my parents, who were my only support, told me that they would be kicking me out, stopping paying for my education, and removing me from their health insurance if I took Plan B. I further explained that when I found out I was pregnant from the rape, they once again coerced me the same way into carrying the fetus to term, and how they insisted on adopting him after I stated I never wanted to see him again. I wanted him up for a closed adoption, but they would not relent. I then added pictures of me from the hospital. Blood, bruises, missing teeth, shattered face, everything. I included a recent picture of myself with my orbital prosthesis removed so everyone could see the permanent damage. I posted everything onto the family group chat. I included that I would now consider the matter closed and have decided to completely cut myself off from all of them. It was my New Year's gift to myself and my mental health. I have received messages and emails from family members using unknown numbers and emails to tell me that they didn't know about all of this and that they are sorry. I blocked the new sources. I'm just done. I honestly have not had the strength to do this until you guys gave it to me. Thank you. The update completely reframes the emotional weight of everything that came before it. Once the assault is revealed, along with the medical trauma and permanent physical damage, the parents' actions no longer feel misguided or overbearing. They feel devastating. Not only did they fail to protect their child after a violent attack, they used their power over her housing, education, and healthcare to force her into continuing the pregnancy. That isn't tough love. That is coercion at the worst possible moment. What really struck me was the courage it took for her to finally tell the truth, especially in such a public and irreversible way. Posting those details and photos in the family group chat wasn't about revenge. It felt like someone finally saying, "I will not carry this silence anymore," and then choosing to cut contact. That felt like a boundary built not out of anger, but out of exhaustion. Sometimes people don't walk away because they stop caring. They walk away because caring has cost them too much for too long. From my perspective, this is no longer a story about helping aging parents or taking responsibility for a child. It's about a woman reclaiming control over her narrative after years of being forced to live inside someone else's decisions. If I had to sum up the entire story in one thought, it would be this: you are not obligated to keep sacrificing yourself for people who built their comfort on your pain. And sometimes, the bravest thing someone can do isn't to forgive or to fix the past. It's to finally choose themselves and walk away. Now, let's move on to the next post. The subreddit, Am I the Asshole? Posting for advocacy. Am I the asshole if I went to a hotel with my kids because of my mother-in-law's behavior toward my daughter? I hope this is the right place to post. I apologize for asking on a short timeline. My husband and I are currently at my in-laws in Houston for the holidays. We live in Atlanta but are here for the holidays to see them. Just a bit of context so my reaction doesn't seem over the top. My MIL always wanted a grandson. She used to say she was praying for one early in my pregnancy with my daughter. My husband and I didn't care. We just wanted our baby to be happy and healthy. After we had her, she kept pushing for us to have another. My son is 4 months old, and my 2-year-old daughter is such a loving big sister to him. My MIL's behavior to them is definitely partial. From the amount of Christmas presents she gave to the amount of time and love she gives. Now all these things are things that are her effort to distribute as she wishes, so I didn't say anything. But today me and her were with my son, while my husband was cuddling with my daughter. They have a really close bond, and she's a real daddy's girl. My MIL snapped at him and said to forget her for a bit and give his attention to my son who needs it. She said it in front of my daughter, who suddenly went quiet and looked confused and hurt. My son had 2 adults with him. He didn't need my husband to turn his attention from my daughter at that time. I said as much, and she said we're spoiling her to the detriment of our son, and that he needs it more, and we need to impress on my daughter boundaries. Again, all in front of her. I lost it, took my son and my daughter and went to my husband's room, where we're staying. A few minutes later, my husband came up, apologized for his mom, hugged our daughter, and said Granny was having a bad day, but she loves you so much, don't take it to heart, blah blah. I told him I'm seriously considering just booking a hotel for the rest of the time we're here, till Saturday. He told me that would make things worse, that he'll talk to her and fix this. So he went downstairs again. But I'm still considering just going. Would that be an impulsive thing and AITAH thing to do? Thanks. Adding this now. He told me he impressed upon her that what she said and did would distance us from her, and that things will go smoother. He said that me leaving with the kids would make our daughter feel like she caused it, which wouldn't be right. I asked him what exactly she said. He said she understood what he was saying, but I asked him exactly what she said. And he just seemed evasive. And I've read some comments. Honestly, I'd much rather go back to Atlanta than stay in Houston at a hotel. I'll have to check how that could be done. He was asking me to bring us all back down. I said I wasn't ready, but he has taken our daughter out with him to make her feel better. What immediately stands out in this story is how subtle the harm is, and how easy it would be for outsiders to dismiss it. There's no screaming, no obvious cruelty, just small comments, quiet comparisons, and moments that land on a toddler's heart in ways adults often underestimate. From a personal perspective, the moment that really stayed with me is when the grandmother corrected the father in front of the daughter. That wasn't about helping the baby. That was about sending a message about whose needs matter more. And for a 2-year-old who is already adjusting to a new sibling, that kind of public correction can quietly plant feelings of replacement and insecurity. What I also feel strongly about here is the mother's instinct. She isn't reacting to a single sentence. She's reacting to a pattern she's been watching for a long time. Favoritism in families rarely shows up as one dramatic incident. It shows up in tone, in timing, in who gets interrupted, and who gets protected. And when you're a parent, you notice those things even when no one else does. Emotionally, this doesn't read like a woman trying to start drama during the holidays. It reads like a mother who suddenly realizes that the emotional safety of her child might matter more than keeping the peace in someone else's house. And while her instinct was already telling her that something wasn't right, the update shows what happened when she chose to stay, give the benefit of the doubt, and hope that a quiet conversation would be enough to change the pattern. Hi, I wanted to provide an update since some of you had asked. Honestly, I was avoiding it initially because I had gone against the advice given. My daughter and husband had come back last night with him showing her around the area. My daughter was happy, and my husband said he had made it clear to his mom that the favoritism wouldn't stand. So I chose to stay. This morning my MIL was extra sweet to my daughter, showing her stuff around the house and kitchen. It seemed a bit fake syrupy sweetness to me, but I thought, okay, maybe I'm cynical. She's trying and my daughter can't tell, so it's all good. And the morning went fine. But after lunch, when we were in the living room, she was telling my daughter her responsibilities as an older sister, that her brother is a baby and younger than her, and she needs to now be a big girl and make sure he's happy. It maybe doesn't sound bad in words, but the tone was one of a lecture. So I just said Jazzy is a baby too and tickled her to make her laugh, and just kind of put her at ease and diffused the tension of the lecture. At this, my MIL said she's just fulfilling her right and responsibility by educating my daughter, that she's her dad's mom. She's earned the right to educate her grandkids. Again, in front of her. That was it for me. Maybe in isolation it wouldn't have, but considering yesterday, I told my daughter we'll play with her toys in the room and took her and my son up. I called my husband and told him what had happened. He kept asking how she said it and the setting, and I was just like, I planned to give her an honest chance this morning, otherwise I would have done all this yesterday, and to trust me when I'm saying she crossed the line. I told him I'm changing our flights to catch the earliest one out. I need him to come with us, or he has to tell our daughter why Daddy isn't coming back home with us. He said he'll come too and sort out the flight. I told him I just want the earliest one whenever it is, and told him to come back. He's out with his friends today. He told me later we fly out early tomorrow morning now. The last flight today was like 2 hours from our call, so it wouldn't be enough time, and he'll be here soon. I'm just packing our stuff up now. I went downstairs a few times to grab some of our stuff. She tried talking to me, telling me to calm down. I just told her he'll talk to her when he comes. I should have listened and just done this yesterday. I deserve any incoming criticism. I'm so angry with myself too. My daughter has had to be in an uncomfortable position twice rather than once because of that. And we could have celebrated New Year's Eve in Atlanta instead of here. Thank you all for the advice. I appreciate it so much. Final update. We're at the airport now waiting for boarding. I thought I'd give my last update now, since I'm going to be really tired back at home. When my husband spoke to her, I have to admit that I eavesdropped. IDK if that makes me an AH, but it is what it is. It concerned my daughter, so I feel it was okay for me to do it, and if it was super private, they shouldn't have been doing it in the living room. He was really disappointed with his mom, saying they'd gone over this yesterday, that she'd given him her word to drop the favoritism. She denied any favoritism and said I was overreacting and just looking for an excuse to go. Never mind that if that were the case, I would have done this yesterday or 2 days ago now, since it's past midnight. She also said if I was the one with the problem, why does everyone have to go? She came up to say goodbye to us before she went to sleep. To her credit, she didn't make a scene in front of my daughter and said her goodbyes to us. She was obviously cold with me, but I mean that's to be expected. The updates, to me, are where this story becomes especially heavy, not because things explode, but because they don't really change. The grandmother switches to exaggerated sweetness, then quickly returns to boundary crossing, this time framing it as her right to educate the child. That's a critical shift. It turns the issue from accidental insensitivity into entitlement. And once someone believes they have earned authority over your child, conversations become much harder, because now you're not just disagreeing, you're challenging their sense of ownership. What hurts the most in the full story is how many chances the mother gives before she finally leaves. She second-guesses herself. She waits. She wants to believe things can improve. And because of that, her daughter is exposed to the same emotional discomfort twice. You can feel the self-blame in her words when she realizes that staying didn't protect her child. It only delayed the inevitable. I also think it's important that the husband ultimately chooses to leave with his family. He doesn't minimize it in the end. He doesn't stay behind to keep the peace. That matters, because it shows that protecting your child sometimes means disappointing your parents, even when it's painful. Stepping back, this story doesn't feel like a family dispute about holiday tension. It feels like a moment where a couple quietly draws a line around their children and says, "This is where our responsibility begins, and everyone else's opinions end." If I had to sum up the entire story in one thought, it would be this. When someone keeps crossing emotional boundaries with your child, leaving isn't overreacting. It's choosing safety over comfort. And sometimes, the bravest parenting decision isn't staying calm. It's knowing when to pack your bags and go home. Now, let's move on to the next post. The subreddit, Am I the Asshole? Lily T's X. Am I the asshole for asking my mom to stop using my name when she talks about her miscarriages? M20 female. My mom is 47 female. She's had multiple miscarriages before and after she had me. Growing up, she was always open about it, which I understood. It's her trauma, and I'm not trying to erase that, but the part that's getting to me is she uses my name when she talks about it. Like she'll say stuff like, if my name had lived, she would be 25 now. Or, I had another my name before the one you are. She named 2 of the miscarried babies the same name she gave me. I didn't even know that until last year. It messes with my head more than I want to admit. It makes me feel like I'm a replacement. Like I'm not my own person, just the version that survived. I feel weird even saying that BC. I know she loved those babies, and I don't want to be insensitive. But she talks about it to relatives, family, friends, even strangers sometimes. And they look at me with this sad face, like I'm some reminder of something tragic, instead of just me. Last week, she was telling someone about it in front of me again, and I finally said quietly that it makes me uncomfortable and asked if she could not use my name like that when talking about it. She got really hurt and said I'm trying to erase her grief and that I don't get to tell her how to talk about her babies. Now she's been cold and telling my aunt I'm being insensitive and too emotional. I feel horrible, but also I feel like this is messing up my sense of self, and I don't know how to explain that without sounding selfish. Am I the asshole for asking her to stop using my name like that? What hit me first in this story isn't the mother's grief. It's the identity confusion the daughter is quietly carrying. When your own name is repeatedly used to describe people who never lived, it blurs the line between who you are and who you're being compared to. And that kind of confusion doesn't show up as anger right away. It shows up as a slow, uncomfortable sense of not fully belonging to yourself. From a personal standpoint, the most painful part is the feeling of being a replacement. Not because the mother intends it that way, but because language has power. When the same name is used again and again, it creates the emotional suggestion that this life is somehow standing in for another. That's not a small thing to grow up with. What also stands out is how careful the daughter is trying to be. She doesn't deny her mom's pain. She doesn't try to silence the story of the miscarriages. She only asks for one specific boundary, not to attach her own identity to that loss. And even then, she brings it up quietly, not publicly, not confrontationally, emotionally. This doesn't read like someone trying to control another person's grief. It reads like someone trying to protect their own sense of self. All right, everyone, which story got you fired up the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thank you for spending your time with me. Your support genuinely means the world. Take care, much love, and I'll see you in the next one.